As I said, today is a special day, and as I also said, we have an absolute icon in our movement here today. We are so lucky to have her here, and I'm going to introduce her in a way that has meaning because on a journey that we're both going to speak in at the at a conference, a New Thought conference in Canada. I won't say any more other than Dr. Sue Rubin.
Yowza! Yowza! Good morning. This is a good day to be alive. This is the day the Lord had made. We rejoice and I'm glad in it. And I know that right where you are, God is. Right where I am, God is. That's all there is. And so the journey of life takes us to many places. And I'm particularly thinking at this moment of someone many of you may have known through the years, Evelyn Jones, Dr. Dennis's mom. And so in that corridor of life that we walk in so many ways, here, there, and everywhere, Evelyn made her transition this week. And just in a few days, she would be 95. You know, have you noticed lately that's what you're hearing? Oh my God, somebody passed away. They're 433 years old. It's like back to the biblical times when the numbers, had no relevance. So anyway, we stand with everyone in the family, Dr. Dennis down in Florida, and the family up in Oregon, knowing that life goes on, and the joy that she and Russell shared for 75 years. She and Russell Jones were married. How many have been married that long here? Symbolically, yeah, we could say that. So happy journeying to Evelyn and to all of us as we continue to move into that holy of most holy places. I was watching for probably the fourth time Scent of a Woman with Al Pacino, and I noticed for the first time that when they were in the quote-unquote courtroom determining Charlie's fate for the misdeeds that he and his fellow students had performed, there was a sign on the back of the wall in that room. And I'll give $100 to anybody who can tell me right now what that sign said. No, it said, "The place where people meet to seek the highest is holy ground." The place where people meet to seek the highest is holy ground. And I thought, is this not what community is about? So every time I look over and I see Sherry, it's like time flashes back. She was my music director at the Westlake Church of Religious Science Center for Spiritual Living for 10 years. Woo! Time marches on when you're having a good time. Daryl, so many familiar faces sitting right before me. So today we're talking, because you've been talking all month about love, right? I love you, I love myself, I love the world, I love my dog, I love my cat, I love the whole place. Even though everything looks like it's unlovable, I'm still loving it because I am God as love in action, in manifest form. So my topic is, after the loving, the law. So Ernest Holmes said a couple of things about life is, particularly in metaphysical circles, whether you know it or not, love and law are the two principles. So we have before us the reminder the great love of the universe must be one with the great law of its own being. So we approach love through the law. Then this is our teaching, love and law. As the love of God is perfect, so also is the law of God. We must understand both love and law, the personal and the impersonal, the vertical Every time, this is the sign for God in signing. God is that vertical. I am is what am I going to do with what I've got? What you're doing with what you've got, with all that love, that is the essence of who we are. And the personal is the relationship that we establish with the divine. And the impersonal is the law. It simply is the receiver of whatever awareness we have of who and what we are. So one of my favorite things is happening tonight. It's the Academy Awards. Anybody else watch the Academy Awards? And I must admit, I'm also a little eager to see if any politicizing will happen. That could be a very interesting scenario. And in the midst of all, you and I are to, at that moment, leave the personal aside and so let the essence and energy and intelligence of love so move through us so that wherever we are in current times, and certainly, as we've been told for many years, we live in interesting times. And actually, that statement, that definition, that quotation, really said, you will live in interesting times. So what is it that you and I find if we've got this fantastic understanding metaphysically that the degree to which I establish a relationship with myself, that capital S, the degree to which I can bring myself to a living of that greater reality with the large capital R, the more that I can take the vertical and live it horizontally. I feel like I'm about to take off. And then I always think of the flight attendants on a plane when they're demonstrating, the aisle and this. The dance of life, we're always in movement. And what I love to see here is you're up and dancing and doing it. Usually there's a very conservative element. I'm blessed to be speaking at so many places. And you can just see the foot is tapping, and there's that urge when the music comes on at a certain beat. And yet it's almost like we look to someone to be the way shower, to stand. And the minute that one person stands, boom. So if love and law, the personal relationship with the divine, with our self, with the big S, is exactly what determines what the law picks up and what it does with what it gets. And what it produces is the ultimate infinite manifestation in finite form. So does it not behoove us to see what is it that I can do to uncover more of myself, particularly in these times when everything that we have studied and investigated and explored and contemplated and speculated about and analyzed, it's time to put it into action. We see that as happening. There's a rising of not only a personal awareness of soul power, but there is the evidence of it in the demonstration of people gathering and a whole new grassroots movement, which I know in my heart is part of the cosmic order of this entire universe, that it is designed that one way or another you will wake up. And these are the times when you've dawdled, you've dabbled, you've diminished your own sense of self with excuses and rationalizations and reasons and pointed to history and to your story and my story. And yet now is the time for all of that to be transcendent to a bigger story. I am the universal personalized. Let's say that. I am the universal personalized. So that other paradox with that vertical and horizontal, how do I bring who I am into the full expression of my life so that no matter what I'm looking at, what I'm reading, what I'm experiencing, what I'm expressing, I always retain the wisdom, the knowledge, and that deep sense of groundedness. It's love and it's fear. It's the old thing that so many teachers have suggested in so many ways. Basically, the whole law of life and love is we're either in love or we're in fear. And love is simply, I feel, that deep sense of our own recognition of our oneness with God, whereas the fear is the veil somehow becomes heavier. And I have that false sense of separation between myself and that which I truly am. And so John Lennon had it to say this way. Oh, that's a different one. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, that's John Lennon. There are two basic motivating forces, fear and love. When afraid, we pull back from life. In love, we open to all that life has to offer with passion, excitement, and acceptance. Evolution and all hopes for a better world rest in the fearlessness and open-hearted vision of people who embrace life. So, can you embrace life when you're not pleased, perhaps, with the way things are? Is it only when things are working your way? Is it only when everybody is cooperative and bringing forth your desired objectives? Are you content within yourself? The Christ said, I have found that in whatever state I am in, therein to be content. That comes with the other things that we've heard and read for time immemorial, that I'm in this world, but I'm not of it. I can enjoy all of the fruits of my labor, and I can be a participant to all of the health and the wealth and the creativity and the peace. I can be a participant in every relationship, bringing a radical kind of compassion, a mature kind of love, and a deep sense of kindness and generosity of spirit. And that doesn't mean things around me look any different than what I perceive them to look like, because I'm either being open-hearted and fully alive in the ways that I am engaging in life or not. So I've been a minister since 1985. Some of you weren't even born then. And in that time, what I have discovered is myself. So no matter where you've been or what you've been doing in your own evolution, the bottom line is I continue to be somewhere in me at a new place all of the time. And the interesting thing that we discover when there seems to be a dominance of either one part of ourself or another, either the divine, when we gather like this, oh my goodness, everything that's alive is vibrating at that higher frequency, because we seem to be of that same mind. This is the place where people meet seeking the highest, and it becomes holy ground. And suddenly my search for the Holy Grail has become valid, because I see myself surrounded with all of the knights of the round table, all seeking and finding that mythic, that archetypal truth that we're all looking for: peace of mind, harmony of being comfortable in my own skin, being able to navigate those murky, sometimes really devastatingly challenging waters of life, and to be able to know that I have come at this time, in this moment, in order that I become more spiritually discerning, so that I'm onto myself. I don't have to ignore my own faults and project them onto other people, be it economically, politically, socially, financially, relationally, in every which way, because the bottom line is everything we're looking at outside of ourselves right now that some of us may be very happy about and some of us not so happy, it still is the return of our own thinking, individually and collectively. So the question becomes what Holmes has always said: truth known is demonstrated. So we're all looking at as much truth as we right here, right now, individually and collectively, can recognize as, whoops, I've got some cleaning up. Anybody have any cleaning up to do? I think so. I know that for myself. I see it every day. I've started an interesting journey, my visitations and sightings at Starbucks. So if you're checking my Facebook page, check it out. Because what I noticed is, as so many other people before me and many after me will notice, life is what happens right in the moment that it's happening. And so the other day, for example, I sat down and there was a huge group that staggered in, but obviously they were all together meeting, and they kept gathering chairs and sat down right next to me. There were about 6 of them. And I listened to the conversation, and it had a lot of humor, a lot of warmth, a lot of positivity, a lot of quotes from people. Oh, have you heard this, that so-and-so said? And my mind started conjuring, okay, who are they to each other? Well, my sense was they've all attended a conference and met at this very positive conference and are now having a reunion and resharing their ideas. And then I thought, or, this is like, seemingly, now the interesting thing about life is you would never know that, I would imagine, from my face. I just looked like this woman sitting in the corner, kind of crowded out, drinking her little chai tea latte. And yet this is all the action that's going on. Busy, busy place in here. Then I thought, well, no, I think they met traveling. My particular form is cruising, so I thought, that's it. They met on a cruise. And now they're having a reunion, and they're just sharing the good times they had and how lovely to still be connected. So the conversation went on, and I was pretty satisfied with my own conclusions. Did you ever get satisfied with your own conclusion? So they finally got up to leave, but one woman was still gathering her stuff together, and I kept hearing my voice, ask her. You're never going to check your own reality if you don't ask. So I said, so excuse me, I hate to be intrusive, but I will be anyway. How do you all know each other? Anybody a guess how they knew each other? They were related. They were all family. And the one cousin lives in the other part of the city. The other cousin lives up in that part of the city. And they all happen to be coming together just to reconvene, as they often do. And I thought, ooh, that's a good lesson. I'm thinking I'm right, I've got the answer, I'm poking around. But where are we always poking around? We're poking around from our own experience. And the bottom line is that experience has already happened, and although it serves as a building block to something new that can happen, still what happens is a continuum of something that happened before it happened, but it's greater than what is happening and what is happening now. Say that with me. So here's a statement that Ernest Holmes had about really how does one demonstrate the truth? How does one know how to get the idea that's clear and pure and perfect and in harmony with infinite intelligence, motivated by the presence of love and enacted by the law of mind action? How does one do that? And Ernest Holmes said, the time between the birth of an idea in the mind and its fulfillment is equal to the resistance to a complete acceptance that the fulfillment is in this precise moment. So how often in treatment work, the very basis is my good already is. We can give lip service to that, but the bottom line is that's something we have to so vividly embody and embrace and engage not only our thought with, but the feeling, the excitement that if indeed it's an equivalent, and I realize it's not a mental equivalent, talks about it's equal to the time for demonstration is equal to the resistance to a complete acceptance that that fulfillment is now. It's a spiritual equivalent. All of what Holmes said in the textbook, basically it is about a spiritual equivalent which has to kick it up from a mental, a psychological equivalent that my good already is. I've got to taste it. I've got to feel it. I've got to sense it. I've got to have the passion, the fervor, the excitement, the exultation, the absolute ecstatic knowingness that when I declare my word is the power of God speaking in and through and by means of me. And this is our moment. Everything that we used to be able to get away with, speculating and talking, and we would get together in groups and analyze. Again, we've done that. We've all been to the same workshops. We've all attended the same classes. We've all read the same books. What is the good of it? It's that sponge that we just keep letting the water run through, and now it's time to turn that on an off position and squeeze the sponge of our own consciousness of accumulated and cumulative knowledge and wisdom and inspiration. And it's got to speak to your heart. This is really wild. There's someone who's sitting in the very back, and with the lighting, it looks like they're sitting in a nun's habit, because all I see is the dark hair, the dark garb, and like it appears there's a white collar. It's a really good feeling. Thank you so much, Sister Mary. So, if in the greatest scheme of things, you and I are divinely designed for the pleasure of the infinite to show up by means of you and by means of me, back to the Talmudic words, if not now, when? If not me, who? And if I'm only for myself, then of what value is that? So the best way to sum it up is to keep prodding ourselves and doing the practices and continuing to see how smooth is it, that transition, that seeming paradoxical gap that I'm always crossing from the vertical God is to the horizontal I am. And Jean Houston has a couple of words that she always has, very amply and richly. And here's what she said: in our time, we have come to the stage where the real work of humanity begins. It is a time of assuming a new type of culture, the culture of kindness. Herein we live daily life reconnected and recharged by the source, so as to become liberated and engaged in the world and in our tasks, to live in the world, doing what we do better than we do anything else, and in our own unique way, without comparison. We do it because it is the divine design that is completely awaiting our recognition in order to spring forth and to create a new heaven and a new earth. So I challenge myself every day. I can't get away, none of us can get away with saying anymore, oh my God, I've already lived 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years or more. And what do you want from me? What's a person to do? Sorry. The ageless, timeless eternality that we speak about, read about, talk about, love, apparently, is now calling us to be the living embodiment, the paradigm for setting a whole new level of wisdom, kindness, generosity, pure and perfect spirit in action by means of you, by means of me, and together indeed. This is our time, and here we are. So that's the way it really is, and so it is. L'chaim.